I think the exorcism made it worse. That is not something I ever thought I would say. If you had asked me a year ago whether I believed in demons, I would have laughed. I would have told you that people see what they want to see. That grief and stress can twist the mind. That old houses make strange noises. That shadows are just shadows. I was wrong. It started with my sister, Elena. She was 23. Quiet. Sensitive. The kind of person who felt everything too deeply. After our mother died, she moved back into the house with me. It was supposed to be temporary. Just until she got back on her feet. The house had belonged to our parents. Old. Wooden floors. A narrow staircase that creaked even when no one was on it. The basement always smelled slightly damp no matter how much we cleaned it. But it was home. The first change was small. Elena stopped sleeping. I would wake up around 2 or 3 in the morning and see light under her bedroom door. At first I thought she was just grieving. Scrolling on her phone. Watching something to distract herself. Then I started hearing her whispering. At first I thought she was on the phone. But when I passed her door, I never heard another voice. Just her. Soft. Urgent. Like she was responding to someone standing right in front of her. One night I stood outside her room and listened. There was a pause. And then she said very clearly, "I won't." Silence. Then, quieter. "I said I won't." I knocked. The whispering stopped instantly. When she opened the door, her eyes looked wrong. Not possessed. Not glowing. Nothing dramatic like that. Just exhausted. And distant. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. She blinked slowly. "No one. You were whispering." "I was praying." Elena had never been religious. Not even a little. I let it go. That was my first mistake. Over the next week, things escalated. She stopped eating with me. Said food tasted strange. Metallic. She started covering the mirrors in her room with towels. When I asked why, she said she did not like the way they looked at her. The way they looked at her. I tried to reason with her. Suggested therapy. Suggested medication. Grief does strange things to people. Then came the night she screamed. It was around 3:17 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I checked my phone after it woke me. It was not a normal scream. It was not fear. It was pain. I ran to her room and threw the door open. She was on the floor, clutching her head. Her fingers dug into her hair like she was trying to pull something out. "There's something inside," she kept saying. "It's inside." I knelt beside her, trying to hold her still. "What is inside?" She looked at me. And for a moment, I did not recognize her. Her expression was calm. Too calm. "It doesn't like you," she said. Then she started laughing. Not hysterical. Not wild. Just soft. Like she had heard a private joke. I called a doctor the next morning. They said stress. Trauma. Possibly the beginning of a psychotic break. They recommended psychiatric evaluation. Elena refused. And then something happened that I still cannot explain. The scratches appeared. 3 lines. Perfectly parallel. On the inside of her bedroom door. They were deep enough to expose raw wood beneath the paint. I asked her if she did it. She held up her hands. Her nails were bitten down to the skin. "It wasn't me," she said. And for the first time, I believed her. Because the scratches were too clean, too precise, and too high on the door for her to reach from the floor where I had found her. That was the day she asked for a priest. Elena, who used to mock organized religion. She looked at me across the kitchen table and said, It knows I told you. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Who knows? She did not answer. She just whispered. It said if I tell you again, it will hurt you instead. That night I did not sleep. Because around 3:17 in the morning, I heard whispering. Not from her room. From the hallway. Right outside mine. I did not open my door that night. I lay there frozen, staring at the ceiling, listening. The whispering moved slowly down the hallway. It did not sound like Elena. It sounded layered. Like two voices trying to speak at the same time. One soft. One slightly behind it. Repeating the same words a half-second later. I held my breath until it stopped. The next morning, Elena looked worse. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her lips were dry and cracked. But what unsettled me most was how calm she seemed. Too calm. Like someone who had accepted something. I need a priest, she said again, stirring her coffee without drinking it. I asked her why. She looked at me and said very quietly, because it's getting impatient. That afternoon, I called Father Morales. He had known our family for years. He baptized Elena. He officiated our mother's funeral. He was not the dramatic type. Not someone who saw demons in every shadow. When I told him what was happening, there was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then he said, I will come by tonight. He arrived just after sunset. The house felt different the moment he stepped inside. Heavy. Like the air pressure had changed. Elena refused to come downstairs at first. When she finally did, she would not look at him. Father Morales tried to speak gently. Asked her questions about stress. About grief. About sleep. She answered politely. Too politely. Then he took out a small silver cross. The reaction was immediate. Elena flinched. Not violently. Just enough. Like someone reacting to a sudden bright light. It's just a symbol, he said softly. She smiled. No, she replied. It isn't. The temperature in the room dropped. I know how that sounds. But I felt it. A cold that moved across my skin, not through the air. Father Morales asked me to step outside with him. On the porch, under the dim yellow light, he looked older than I remembered. She may be suffering from trauma, he said carefully. But there are indicators. What kind of indicators? He hesitated. Oppression, he said finally. Possibly infestation. I did not like those words. He asked if anything unusual had happened in the house recently. Any objects moved. Any smells. Any dreams. I told him about the scratches. I told him about the whispering. I did not tell him that the whispering had continued the night before. That I had heard it outside my room again. Slower this time. Closer to the floor. Like something crouched. He said he would perform a blessing first. If there is something attached, he said, it will react. He set everything up in the living room. Candles. Holy water. The cross. A small book worn at the edges. Elena sat in a chair in the center. She looked small. Fragile. For a moment I felt foolish. Like we were overreacting. Then Father Morales began to pray. The air shifted. That is the only way I can describe it. The house creaked. Not the normal settling sounds. This was rhythmic. Deliberate. Elena's breathing changed. Slow at first. Then deeper. Her eyes rolled upward, but not dramatically. Just enough to show more white than usual. Father Morales continued. His voice steady. Firm. The candles flickered. And then Elena spoke. But it was not her voice. It was lower. Not deeper like a man, Just wrong. Like the sound came from somewhere behind her throat. You shouldn't have come, she said. Father Morales did not stop. He pressed the cross gently against her forehead. That is when she screamed. The windows rattled. Every candle went out at once. And something hit the wall behind me. Hard. I turned. The picture frame of our family had fallen. The glass shattered across the floor. Father Morales raised his voice. Elena began laughing. But there were tears running down her face. I told you, the voice said. It doesn't like him. I felt something brush against the back of my neck. Not a hand. Not exactly. More like pressure. Like someone standing too close behind me. I turned quickly. No one was there. Father Morales finished the prayer abruptly. The room fell silent. Elena slumped forward, unconscious. The house felt normal again. Normal. Like nothing had happened. Father Morales looked shaken. She is not alone, he said quietly. I asked him if it was a demon. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he said something that still keeps me awake. It may not be her that it wants. That night, he scheduled the exorcism. And that night, for the first time, the whispering came from inside my room, right behind my bed. I did not move when I heard it. The whispering came from behind my bed. Soft. Slow. Almost curious. I could feel the vibration through the wall, like someone speaking with their lips pressed against the drywall. I stayed completely still. If I moved, it might know I was awake. The voice was not clear at first. Just fragments. Broken syllables. Then I heard my name. Not shouted. Not dramatic. Just spoken. Like someone testing it. I squeezed my eyes shut and told myself it was stress. Lack of sleep. Suggestion. After everything I had just witnessed, my mind was filling in the blanks. Then something tapped the wall. 3 times. Slow. Precise. I did not sleep at all that night. The exorcism was scheduled for the following evening. Father Morales insisted it be done properly. He brought another priest with him. Father Ignacio. Older. Quieter. The kind of man who studied before he spoke. They arrived before sunset. Elena had not left her room all day. I had not told them about the whispering in my room. I do not know why. Maybe I did not want it to become real. When they began preparing the living room again, I noticed something strange. Elena's bedroom door was open. She was standing inside, watching me. Not the priests. Me. Her face was blank. Her eyes followed me every time I moved. Are you ready? Father Morales asked her gently. She smiled. I'm not the one you should be asking. The ritual began stronger this time. Louder. More forceful. Latin filled the room. The air felt charged. Like before a thunderstorm. Elena's body stiffened in the chair. Her fingers curled inward slowly, joints cracking one by one. I stood near the wall, trying to stay out of the way. Trying not to draw attention. Father Ignacio sprinkled holy water across her forehead. It sizzled. I know how that sounds. But I heard it. Like droplets hitting something hot. Elena arched backward violently. Her mouth opened wider than it should have. And she spoke again. But this time, it did not look at the priests. It looked at me. It remembers you. The words hit me like a physical blow. What does that mean? I whispered. The priest continued praying. Elena's head tilted unnaturally to the side. You opened the door first. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she meant. Father Morales pressed the cross harder against her skin. Smoke rose. Actual smoke. The room began shaking. Not violently, but subtly. The floorboards vibrating beneath our feet. The candles bending sideways as if pushed by unseen wind. "Elena!" I shouted. "Fight it!" Her eyes snapped to mine. For a split second I saw her. Terrified. Trapped. Then something else slid back into place. "You invited me," the voice said. The words echoed slightly. Not in the room. In my head. A memory surfaced suddenly. Sharp. Clear. 3 months ago. The night after our mother's funeral. I had been alone in the house. Drunk. Angry. Grieving. I remember standing in the hallway. I remember shouting at the ceiling. "If there's anything out there," I had yelled. "Prove it." I had laughed afterward. Mocking. Challenging. The memory hit me like ice water. "You don't mean that," I whispered. Elena began laughing again. But her lips were not moving in sync with the sound. "You asked?" the voice continued. And I answered. The temperature plummeted. I could see my breath. Father Ignacio shouted something louder. The lights flickered. And then every mirror in the house cracked at the same time. A sharp, violent popping sound from every room. I flinched. And for 1 second, the whispering behind my thoughts grew louder than the priest's voices. Not from Elena. From inside my own head. "You're easier." The candles exploded. Glass shattered outward. The priest stumbled back. Elena collapsed to the floor. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Father Morales knelt beside her, checking her pulse. "She's breathing," he said. Father Ignacio looked at me. Not at her. At me. His expression had changed. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. I could not answer. Because deep down, I was starting to understand. And the worst part was this. When they carried Elena to her bed, the house felt lighter. Like something had left. But I did not feel lighter. I felt watched. From the inside. Elena slept for almost 16 hours after the exorcism. When she finally woke up, she looked different. Not dramatically. Just clear. Her eyes were focused again. The distant fog was gone. Her voice sounded like her voice. She asked for water. She asked what had happened. She cried when we told her pieces of it. "I don't remember," she kept saying. "I don't remember any of it." Father Morales stayed a few more hours. He walked through every room, blessing the walls, the windows, the basement door. Father Ignacio said very little. He observed me more than anything else. Before leaving, Father Ignacio pulled me aside. "How have you been sleeping?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. He held my gaze for a moment too long. "If you experience anything unusual," he said, "you must tell us immediately." I nodded. I did not tell him that the whispering had not returned that night. I did not tell him that something else had. Silence. Complete silence. No creaks. No shifting wood. No distant plumbing sounds. The house had always made noise. Now it felt insulated. Sealed. Like the air was thick with something waiting. Elena improved quickly over the next few days. She started eating again. Talking. Even laughing once or twice. It should have felt like relief. Instead, I felt displaced. Like something was slightly off-center. On the third night after the ritual, I woke up at exactly 3:17. No alarm. No noise. Just my eyes opening suddenly. My room was darker than usual. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. It was gone. I sat up slowly. That was when I noticed the smell. Burned metal. Faint, but unmistakable. My bedroom door was closed. I always left it slightly open. I stared at it for a long time. Then I heard breathing. Not behind the wall. Not in the hallway. In the room. Slow. Measured. I turned my head toward the corner near my closet. The darkness there felt thicker. Not a shape. Not a shadow. Just absence. I told myself it was my imagination. I reached for the lamp. The bulb shattered the moment I touched the switch. Glass fell onto the floor. I froze. The breathing stopped. Then, very softly, from somewhere near the ceiling. "You feel it now." The voice did not echo. It did not vibrate. It sounded exactly like my own voice. I did not scream. I could not. My throat felt tight. Like something invisible was pressing against it. The darkness in the corner shifted. Not moving forward. Not moving backward. Just adjusting. Like it had settled in. "You're quieter than she was," it said. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might black out. "I didn't invite you," I whispered. There was a pause. Then a response. "Yes, you did." The bedroom door handle turned slowly. From the outside, light from the hallway spilled across the floor. "Elena?" I called weakly. The door opened. She stood there, half asleep. "What's wrong?" she asked. The room felt normal. The darkness in the corner was gone. The smell had faded. The pressure on my throat disappeared instantly. I looked around. Nothing. Just my broken lamp on the floor. "I thought I heard something," I said. She frowned. "You're shaking." I realized I was. Elena stepped inside and looked toward the corner near the closet. For a second, her expression changed. Just slightly. Then she looked back at me. "It's okay," she said softly. "It's not in here anymore." The way she said it did not comfort me. It felt like confirmation. After she left, I sat awake until morning. And as the first light came through the window, I heard something move. Not in the room. Inside my chest. A slow, subtle tightening. Like something adjusting to its new home. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been a panic attack. Sleep deprivation. Stress. Suggestion. That is what people like me do. We rationalize until reality fits into something manageable. Elena made breakfast. She hummed while she cooked. She had not hummed in months. "You look tired," she said gently. I nodded. "Just didn't sleep well." She studied me for a second longer than necessary. Almost like she was checking something. "Bad dreams?" she asked. I hesitated. "Yeah." She smiled faintly. "They'll pass." Something about the way she said that unsettled me. Not threatening. Just certain. The day felt strange. Not dramatic. Just slightly misaligned. I would enter a room and forget why. I would start a sentence and lose the end of it halfway through. By afternoon, I found scratches on my forearm. 3 thin lines. Perfectly parallel. Fresh. I stared at them in the bathroom mirror. I did not remember doing that. I pressed my fingers against them. They stung. The mirror cracked. Not shattered. Just a thin fracture spreading from the center outward. I stepped back quickly. The crack stopped moving. I stood there, breathing hard. "You're imagining things," I whispered to myself. My reflection did not move immediately. It lagged. Just slightly. Like a delayed video. I blinked. It corrected. I stepped away from the sink. That night I locked my bedroom door. Not because I was afraid of Elena, but because I was afraid of sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling. At some point, I must have drifted off, because I woke up standing in the hallway, barefoot. The house was dark, every light off. My bedroom door was wide open behind me. I did not remember getting up. My heart pounded as I looked down the hallway. At the end of it, near Elena's room, I was standing there. Not physically, but I saw myself, facing her door. Still, watching. I blinked hard. The image vanished. I was alone. Then Elena's door creaked open. She stepped out slowly. Her eyes met mine. "You were just standing there," she said. My throat went dry. "For how long?" She hesitated. "Since 3:17. The number hit me like a punch. "I couldn't wake you," she continued. "You wouldn't respond." I tried to remember. There was nothing. Just black. "You were whispering," she added quietly. My skin went cold. "What was I saying?" She swallowed. "You kept repeating the same thing." She stepped closer. "You kept saying, 'It fits better now.'" I felt something tighten inside my chest again. Slow. Deliberate. Like fingers adjusting their grip. "I didn't mean to," I whispered. Elena's expression shifted. Not fear. Not relief. Understanding. "I know," she said softly. And for the first time, I was not sure if she meant it kindly, or if she meant it as confirmation. That night, I did not hear whispering in the hallway. I did not hear breathing in the corner. Instead, I heard my own voice. Inside my head. Calm. Patient. "You're stronger than she was." I pressed my hands over my ears. It did not matter. The voice was not external anymore. "You're quieter," it continued. "You don't fight as much." I stumbled to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, I smiled. I did not feel myself smiling, but my reflection did. Slowly. Intentionally. And then it whispered something my body did not say. "Thank you." I stopped sleeping after that. Or at least I tried to. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt myself slipping. Not into dreams. Into something else. Like falling backward into deep water. And something waiting below. Elena noticed first. "You look worse than I did," she said one afternoon. There was no accusation in her voice. Just observation. I laughed it off. "I'm just tired." She did not smile back. That evening, Father Ignacio returned alone. He said he felt unsettled after the ritual. He wanted to check on Elena. But the moment he stepped inside the house, his eyes shifted to me. "How are you?" he asked. The question felt heavier than it should have. "I'm fine," I said automatically. He held my gaze. "No," he said quietly. "You are not." The room felt smaller. Like the walls had leaned inward slightly. Elena excused herself and went upstairs. Father Ignacio and I sat at the kitchen table. "Tell me about your sleep," he said. I hesitated. Then I told him some of it. Not everything, but enough. The standing in the hallway. The missing time. The voice. His expression did not change. But his hands tightened slightly around the rosary he was holding. "It may not have been a transfer," he said slowly. "What does that mean?" "It may have always been oriented toward you." The words felt like a lock clicking into place. "She was vulnerable," he continued. "Grief makes cracks. But sometimes cracks are only entry points." "For what?" I asked. "For access," The air shifted again. Subtle, but real. A low pressure building in my ears. Father Ignacio reached into his coat and placed a small vial of holy water on the table. "May I?" he asked. I nodded. He dipped his fingers into the water and made the sign of the cross toward me. The reaction was immediate. Pain shot through my chest. Sharp. Blinding. I gasped and fell backward out of the chair. It felt like something inside me recoiled violently. Like an animal burned by fire. Father Ignacio stood quickly. "Look at me," he said firmly. I tried. But my vision blurred. My hands moved on their own, clawing at my shirt, at my skin. "It doesn't like that," I heard myself say. But I had not decided to speak. My voice sounded distant, layered. The kitchen lights flickered. Elena screamed from upstairs. Footsteps rushed down the staircase. I was still on the floor, shaking. Father Ignacio began praying loudly. The pain intensified. It felt like something was being forced upward through my throat. Like I was choking on air. "You cannot stay," Father Ignacio commanded. The pressure inside me twisted. Anger flooded my thoughts. Not my anger. Something colder. Older. "You misunderstand," my mouth said. The words felt thick. Heavy. "It is not staying." Elena froze at the doorway. Tears streamed down her face. "I told you," she whispered. Father Ignacio pressed the cross against my forehead. The pain exploded. I screamed. But beneath my scream, there was laughter. Not from the room. From inside. "You invited me," it said again. Memories flooded back. Not just the night I shouted at the ceiling. Older ones. Moments I had forgotten. As a child, sitting alone in the basement, talking to the dark. Pretending something answered. Imaginary friend. I remembered giving it a name. I remembered telling it secrets. I remembered asking it to stay. The realization hit harder than the pain. It had never left. The cross burned against my skin. Smoke filled my nose. Father Ignacio's voice grew louder. The pressure inside me began to split. For a moment, I felt myself rising above it, like surfacing from underwater. And I saw it clearly. Not a shape. Not a body. Just a presence wrapped tightly around my thoughts. Integrated. Interwoven. "You don't want him," I whispered weakly. The presence responded instantly. "I am him." And for the first time, I believed it. I do not remember falling unconscious. But I remember the silence. Not outside. Inside. For the first time in weeks, my thoughts were not layered. Not shared. Just mine. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the living room floor. The lights were steady. The air felt normal. Father Ignacio was kneeling beside me, breathing heavily. Elena was sitting against the wall, pale but awake. "It's weaker," he said quietly. I could feel it. Not gone, but distant, like it had retreated deeper. "You have to fight it," he told me. "This is not like your sister. It is intertwined with your will." My will. That word echoed. Because the truth was beginning to form in my mind. It had not forced its way in. Not entirely. There had been invitations. Loneliness. Anger. Curiosity. As a child. As an adult. Every time I reached into the dark and asked if something was there. Every time I dared it to answer. It had. And I had liked it. The feeling of not being alone. Even if I pretended it was imaginary. "It fed on you," Father Ignacio continued. But you fed it as well. The room felt still, waiting. What happens if we remove it? I asked. He hesitated. You may not be the same. That was when I understood the real horror. It was not sitting inside me like a parasite. It had grown with me, shaped reactions, amplified anger, whispered confidence, muted guilt. How much of me was me? Elena crawled closer. You can let it go, she said softly. You don't need it. The word need hit something deep. Because beneath the fear, there was attachment. It had been there when I was alone in the basement as a child. When our parents fought upstairs. When I felt invisible. It had answered. It had listened. It had stayed. Father Ignacio began praying again. Slower this time. Deliberate. Not aggressive. Inviting separation. The pressure inside my chest tightened. Not violently. Almost pleading. You will be empty. It whispered inside my mind. You will be small. I closed my eyes. And for a moment I saw myself younger. Sitting in the dark basement. Whispering secrets to nothing. But something had answered. Something patient. You don't need me, Elena said again. The presence tightened. Desperate now. They will leave you, it whispered. I won't. Tears filled my eyes. Because it knew exactly where to press. Abandonment. Isolation. Fear. It had grown from those roots. And I had watered it. Father Ignacio placed the cross against my chest. Choose, he said. The pressure intensified. Memories flooded. Every time I lashed out in anger. Every time I felt powerful in arguments. Every time I sensed something pushing me forward. Was that me? Or was that it? You are stronger together, the voice insisted. For a split second, I considered it. The strength. The certainty. The absence of loneliness. All I had to do was stop resisting. Let it settle fully. Become seamless. No more conflict. No more pain. Just unity. My breathing slowed. The prayer continued. Elena's hand grabbed mine. Warm. Human. Real. And I realized something. The presence had always promised permanence. But never love. It stayed. But it never cared. It only consumed. I don't want you, I whispered. The reaction was immediate. Rage. Cold and violent. The pressure inside me twisted like barbed wire. You are nothing without me, it hissed. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather be nothing. Father Ignacio pressed the cross harder. The room shook violently. The lights burst. The windows cracked again. I screamed. Not from pain. From separation. It felt like tearing muscle from bone. Like ripping out a part of my own nervous system. For a moment, I thought it was winning. Because the voice grew louder. Louder than ever. You invited me, it screamed. Yes, I shouted back. And now I'm uninviting you. The pressure exploded outward. A shockwave knocked all three of us to the floor. And then, silence. Absolute. Complete. I lay there shaking. Empty. Truly empty. And that was when I heard it. Not inside. Not outside. But somewhere deeper. Very faint. Very patient. I can wait. It has been 3 months since that night. Elena moved out 2 weeks later. Not because she was afraid of the house. Because she was afraid of me. She did not say it directly. But I saw it in her eyes. Not fear of possession. Fear of what might still be there. Father Ignacio visits occasionally. He asks about my sleep, about the silence. I tell him the truth. I sleep. There are no whispers, no breathing in the corner, no waking at 3:17. The house makes normal sounds again. Wood settling, pipes knocking, wind against the windows. Normal. I should feel relieved. Instead, I feel hollow. Not in a dramatic way. Just reduced. Muted. Like someone turned down the volume on my personality. I do not get angry the way I used to. I do not feel the same sharp certainty in arguments. Sometimes I pause mid-sentence because I am unsure what I was about to say. It is quieter inside my head now. Completely mine. That is what I tell myself. Completely mine. But there are moments, small ones, when I hesitate before making a decision, and for half a second, I feel the absence of something that used to answer immediately. Like reaching for a phone that is no longer there. I started seeing a therapist. I did not tell her everything. Just enough. Grief. Stress. Sleep disturbances. She says trauma can create the illusion of external entities. That the mind is powerful. That belief shapes perception. Sometimes I almost believe her. Last night, I woke up at 3:16. Not 3:17. 3:16. I checked twice. The room was quiet. Still. No smell. No pressure. I lay there waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. I almost laughed at myself. I turned onto my side. Closed my eyes. And then I felt it. Not inside my chest. Not wrapped around my thoughts. Deeper. Subtler. Like a familiar weight just beneath awareness. Not active. Not speaking. Just present. The clock changed to 3:17. I opened my eyes. The room looked normal. But I realized something terrifying. The silence inside my head was not emptiness. It was space. Space that had been carefully cleared. Not because it was forced out, but because it moved, adjusted, integrated differently. I sat up slowly. My reflection in the dark window stared back at me. Still. Calm. Unblinking. I did not see anything unnatural. No distorted smile. No shadow behind me. Just myself. But I understood something with absolute clarity. When I said I was uninviting it. It never argued after that. It never fought to stay. It simply retreated. And waited. Not in the house. Not in the hallway. Not in the walls. In me. But not the way it was before. Quieter. Deeper. Patient. Because the worst part was this. During the separation. When it screamed that I was nothing without it. There was a moment. Very brief. When I was afraid that it was right. And that fear was an invitation. I lay back down. The clock now read 3:18. And in the silence between my own thoughts, very faintly, I heard myself think a sentence I did not choose. We're better this way. I did not respond. I did not move. I just stared at the ceiling. And listened. If you're still here, then you felt it too. Subscribe. And come back. Before it whispers again. Sleep carefully tonight.